My name is Rachael Keogh, and on the 8th of May I went into the grounds of Seanrossabbey with the same engineers that found the 796 babies in Tuam, and what they found there is deeply concerning. So I got involved with the Mother and Baby homes about 4 years ago. I initially got involved as an artist, and I was invited into the groups with the survivors of the Mother and Baby homes. Obviously you have to understand the subject to be able to contribute something to artistically. I had heard about the Mother and Baby homes before, but I didn't realise how deeply personal it was to me, and the further I got into it I realised how deeply personal it was to so many people in Ireland. Altogether in all the Mother and Baby homes there was 9,000 babies that died. Over 100,000 women passed through, but particularly in Seanrossabbey there was 1,090 babies that died there, and Seanrossabbey would have the highest mortality rate. The babies were registered when they went in there, so the mothers would have went in, some of them would have had the babies in there, some would have had the babies beforehand. It was illegal back then to have a baby outside of wedlock. The more I got into understanding what the survivors went through, the more I was absolutely appalled by the abuse that happened in those homes and the fact that 9,000 babies died in the care of the state and the church. I went down to Seanrossabbey, myself and Paddy Houlihan. We have suspected, and a lot of the other survivors suspect, that the babies are scattered all over Seanrossabbey. There's 3 areas of interest where I believe that there may be more babies. We have already scanned the Angels Plot. There is 2 other areas that are really concerning overall. The Angels Plot is an area in Seanrossabbey where there's now 1,048 babies suspected to be buried there. When it came out about the Tuam babies in 2015, the government set up a commission of investigation. This commission basically had 3 people that were on the board, and they were to do an investigation into all of the Mother and Baby homes. In my mind, that was an opportunity for them to really redeem themselves, for the state to redeem themselves, to set a precedence, not just for the survivors and to show the survivors that they were genuinely sorry for the part they played, but to also show the women and children of Ireland today, we're not a country that accepts that kind of abuse towards women or that kind of discrimination. The engineers that have scanned the grounds, they've confirmed that there's a large area of anomalies in the Angels Plot. It's 20 metres long and 2 metres wide. The engineers have said that for an area that small, the size of that anomaly is very, very concerning. There's no GPR scan in the world that will be able to determine what's in the ground exactly, but the engineers have said that they can say for certain that it is a grave, but it definitely needs a slit trench and further investigations. They've also went and looked at the Commission of Investigation's report about the scan that they done. They done a scan in 2019. I've been doing a lot of research into that over the last year or so, and I haven't been able to find any information whatsoever about that scan. They done a very, very big, long report about the fact that they excavated that area, but they only excavated 10% of it. Where they excavated, we were wondering, is it the same place? The engineers have came back and said that it's a completely different place. And the engineers have said that the government would have seen that, they would have been aware of that, the area that we found now. And that's really concerning that they would have held that information.
My name is Simone de Murtas, director of TST Engineering. In 2014 we were initially approached by journalists from Mail on Sunday to carry out a survey in the Tuam baby home site. Early this year we were approached by Rachael, who represents the Bring Them Home group, to do an independent geophysical survey to verify the presence and the location of baby graves in the Seanrossabbey area. We carried out this survey on the 9th of May this year, and we found some large and small anomalies all over the field. Because of that, we recommend further investigation to confirm the typology of this anomaly.
The engineers are TST Engineers. They're the engineers that worked with Catherine Corliss, who kept asking questions for years and years, and she found the 796 babies in Tuam. She knew that there was babies in that septic tank. She got the engineers to have scanned these grounds. She got them to come in. The Commission of Investigation and the Department of Children have said that they were going to scan Seanrossabbey for a long time now. We went in and we scanned it on the 8th of May, and within the same week, Rachael came out and said that he'd given the green light for Seanrossabbey to be scanned. I know as well that the survivors, they have been working very, very closely with Roderick. They're absolutely desperate to get those grounds scanned as well. But from where I stand, I just don't think that the government can be trusted with any of this whatsoever. And this is where I'm coming from. It's a huge concern that a commission of investigation is investigating abuses that they're the perpetrators and enablers of, that colluded with the church. When the government done the excavation, they excavated 10% of it. I don't even know if the public know about this, but they found 48 baby remains there. The engineers have said that the logic to the area that the state have scanned is very, very similar to the area that we have scanned recently. The fact that they withheld that information could be very, very damaging. I've drafted a complaint to the United Nations in Geneva and to the European Parliament of Human Rights about my concerns, not just about the abuses that the women endured from 1920 till 1998, but right through the investigation, the amount of violations that have been committed by the government. What the government done was they put out a little article in a paper or something like that years ago, really, really small, saying if you were in the mother and baby homes and if you wanted to come to the Commission of Investigation and give your testimony, that you could do that and you would be compensated for what you went through. Hundreds of people came to the commission and you had two choices. So they'd say to you, you can tell your testimony to the Commission of Investigation. Even this, to me, was really unethical. Imagine if you were a survivor that had been detained, that had your liberty taken from you. They made you cut your hair, they withheld medication, made you work in back-breaking conditions for like really long hours in dire circumstances. They took your baby off you, they shamed you, banished you from your community. You know, your child just disappeared into thin air. Imagine having to go to the people that are responsible for that abuse and actually tell them about that. So they said to you, if you go to the Commission of Investigation, you're going to have to swear under oath. So really, we don't really believe you, is what we're saying here. We're going to go through your whole life with a fine-tooth comb. We're going to drag up all of your history, and basically you're going to be re-traumatised all over again, and it's going to be really difficult. And a lot of these survivors are much older now, right? So that's one option. The second option is that you can go to the confidential committee. So in the confidential committee, you'll have a sympathetic ear and that will listen to your testimony, and it will be much lighter. Over 500 of the survivors went to the confidential committee, and then they done the whole Commission of Investigation. Before the report went out, they told the survivors that, well, actually, you know, because you went to the confidential committee, we actually have to keep that confidential now, and it's not going to be included in the Commission of Investigation. So basically, the mother and baby home record and the history of the mother and baby homes is based on 19 testimonies. That speaks volumes that only 19 people went and done that. So it just goes to show the trauma that they went through to even have to do that. The survivors were absolutely distraught, re-traumatised all over again. Just not long after that then, the 500 testimonies literally just went missing. That's illegal. Someone has to be held accountable for that. If any evidence is destroyed from a Commission of Investigation without the investigation being dissolved, somebody has to pay a price for that, and nobody has paid a price for that. And then they seal the records for 30 years. By the time that anyone's able to access them, a lot of the survivors will be gone. The length of time that it even took for the investigation was horrific. They brought the report out right in the middle of a global pandemic, you know, at a time when the survivors weren't able to access any support. They had no physical contact with their loved ones. They had to read the report online. They weren't even given a physical copy of it. The report was 3,000 pages long and based off 19 testimonies. Then, they came out and they gave the apology, and they basically said that there was no evidence of abuse, no evidence of forced adoption. So it was just blow after blow after blow to the survivors. We got the names of the 1,090 babies in Seanrossabbey and the cause of death. Some of them, they died from heat stroke, they died from sunstroke, masmoris, congenital heart disease, choking on their porridge. They suffered and they were allowed to perish. If you got pregnant out of wedlock, a nun or somebody would knock on your door and the nuns would say to you, we'll give you a helping hand, and they gave those babies a helping hand into the ground, We've been sitting around since 2015 debating about 9,000 babies in the ground, and nobody is held accountable. The government are saying that society are to blame. They're saying that the families are to blame, the fathers are to blame. No one is taking responsibility. Well, I've often questioned why the secrecy around all of this and why the lack of engagement with people, and I know that it is very difficult for people to digest it because of the nature of it, because you're talking about a time that wasn't so long ago. You're talking about Eamon de Valera, his son was a gynecologist. He was involved in the child trafficking, and also they done trial vaccinations on the babies. Some of them baby parts are actually in Trinity College, the proof is there. Do you know that happened? When you think about it, there was 13 mother and baby homes and 2 county homes. When you think of the type of Ireland that we lived in back then, there was 182 governmental bodies that were involved with the mother and baby homes. So you'd have HSE, local authority, social workers, doctors, all sorts of people and bodies that worked for the government that would have been in and out of all the homes. There was some doctors that did make complaints about how dire the circumstances were and concerns of how malnourished the babies were. They actually had scream houses, what they call scream houses, for when the baby was taken from the mother. But the thing about it is, when you think of the amount of people that were involved, the runners, the people that travelled over to America with the babies, travelled over to Australia, the grave diggers, a lot of these people are more than likely still alive, and their families are probably still alive as well. It seems to be that people are still protecting each other. So last year in Canada, there was 215 babies that were found to be in unconsecrated grounds in Kamloops Industrial School. When they found those babies, straight away they declared that genocide. They were seen as crime scenes. When you think of Ireland, we have 9,000 babies and nobody is batting an eyelid. The other really concerning thing about this is that right in the middle of the global pandemic, the government have changed the burials bill. The European Parliament of Human Rights have written a very strong word to our government about this burials bill, right? It's still going on. It's brought into legislation. Years ago, if you died, right, a coroner had to be present and he'd have to document how you, cause of death, name, date, all of that kind of stuff, right? But now the new burials bill is that if you die, a coroner doesn't have to be present for your death, to do an inquest, basically. That's really troubling because our state is talking about going into Tuam and taking those babies out of that septic tank. But without a coroner, we're never going to know what happened there. I personally believe that all of the mother and baby homes are crime scenes. And to be honest with you, I think that if someone like me, the people that have supported this, Paddy Houlihan, the volunteers that contributed to it, if we can do that, anyone can go in and do that. And a lot of people are really concerned about this. There's nothing wrong with wanting your government to be committed to truth and justice. You're looking at your government just trying to pull the wool over your eyes. We all know what happened in the mother and baby homes. We know that the level of abuse and child trafficking and forced adoptions and enforced disappearance, enslaved labour, torture. We all know about that. When you're looking at your own government and they're actually not acting on it, it's just so disheartening. The babies, as we speak now, those babies are still lying in a septic tank, and their families are screaming at the government, wanting to know if their brother or their sister is in that tank, and the government are just waiting for them to pass on. And that's the reality. Basically what needs to happen is that the EU need to step in, they need to intervene, they need to rectify this, they need to investigate. The whole Commission of Inquiry needs to be scratched, it needs to be repudiated. The European Union need to step in and they need to do the whole Commission of Investigation again independently and impartially. We need to find out where those babies are. Survivors need answers. They need to be acknowledged for abuses that they've suffered. They need restitution. And considering this new evidence of very large anomalies in Seanrossabbey, there needs to be an independent and objective investigation to find out what's buried there. Those babies deserve to be acknowledged. They deserve a proper burial. They deserve the respect and death that they were so cruelly denied in life.